I want to start by just saying thank you to my man Walter, my brother Raheem, and to my man Arnold for coming to the Single Fatherhood Experience Meetup group. It gave us all an opportunity to just hang with each other and have simple conversations, empowering conversations that talked about how we were moving up, dealing with all the things that we've been managing through as not only single fathers, but, you know, dealing with our loss on top of that. And today, like I said, today was a bragging session. It was a time for all of us to talk about all the things we've been able to do since we had to go through our loss. The one thing we talked about was the unfortunate fact that you feel empowered from the loss you dealt with. And I kind of brought it up like this. I said, you know, we've been gifted from the curse of the loss we've experienced. It's it's a dichotomy, but the reality is, you know what? A lot of us wouldn't have acquired or desired to do the things that we did or do the things that we're doing now that we're single parents, and now that we're by ourselves. I mean, one of the guys talked about the fact he was dating again. And that is a benefit because, for real, listen, if you've been in a relationship for some extended period of time, like I was married for 17 years. When I have a chance to find that new one, you know, I need to think differently because it's not, it's she's not going to be like my wife was. She's going to be different. This is all about understanding the value of the new. And that's why I said give each other. Today was a day to brag on ourselves about all the new things we've learned, all the new things we're doing. Like my man, my man Walter, you know, he came to the last meetup and he talked about the fact that, he was singing to get his career moving. And now he's actually learning how to play the piano. So he wants to add both of those elements. It's a great thing because he's getting an opportunity to explore himself. And it's not that he wasn't able to do it when he was married. It was just that he had other obligations. And now this is his desire to break out, desire to see something different. I want to thank my man Raheem because he talked about how he's just become emboldened to do all kinds of new things. I mean, the guy is considering skydiving. You know, eh, God bless him. I'm not jumping out of a plane if I don't have to. But being serious, so we're all looking at something different. Like me, I'm figuring out how to start a nonprofit because I want to help single parents who've gone through the widow's experience. I've been reading statistics, it's been crazy. I mean, they say roughly 60% of the women that lose a spouse go into poverty. That's a pretty significant number. And guys, we may have different we may be able to make more money and things like that, but we got the whole mental thing going on. At the same time, we're navigating how to nurture our kids. So that whole thing can create a financial disparage over time. My goal is to show single parents how they can address themselves emotionally and mentally, how they can be financially independent, and at the same time, be able to have the time freedom to be with their children. You put it this way, you can't be the best version of you working 1 to 2 9 to 5s and trying to see your kids. That's not going to work. But if you can find a way to create that financial independence and also give you that time freedom, it's a benefit. So that's something I'm working on. But we want to we're looking to bring these things into the world. Like I said, my man Walter, when he makes it big, he's going to be somebody that the world notice, the world sees. And he may not have put out his music if he didn't go through his experience. We have to understand that, you know what? The challenges, the grief, the mourning, the hardships, all the stuff we go through, the loss, it it amounts to something. You know, at the moment when we're dealing with it, we don't want to hear the fact that, it's gonna amount to something big. No, not right then, not right there. But over time, you got to start looking at the bigger picture because you can't be stagnated in your grief. You can't not move anywhere. You can't not explore your new, and you definitely can't think that your old situation is going to repeat itself because all that's gone. You cannot bring it back. And since you can't bring it back, stop mentally fighting in your mind, believing you can. That's a big reason why a lot of people stay in their grief. They stay stuck. And if you're not deciding to explore new things, if you're not deciding to figure out what it is about you, what it is inside of you that is being birthed, because the challenges, the hardships, it unearths something in you. Like I said, I definitely wouldn't have been considering checking out how to create a nonprofit if something didn't happen in my world, if my wife had not have died. But sometimes circumstances happen based off of, and now we create ourselves differently. Like uh, my man, my man Raheem is considering jumping out of an airplane. Hey, you know, I mean Arnold. Arnold came, and Arnold is going to cook the school. He wants to learn how to make incredible food like a professional. You never know. He may end up opening up a restaurant or going into private catering. See, all these things are allowing us to explore different, and we end up bringing new things into the world, things that nobody can do except for us. Not that they can't do them, they can't do them the way we want to do them. And it allows you over time to understand that the loss, the loss that you've experienced, as you continue to grow, you're actually honoring the the person you lost. In our case, our spouses. Look, they married us for a reason. They married us because they knew we had some resilience in us. And now we have some abilities and some desires to do some things differently, to expand on ourselves, expand on our world. Now, listen, there's a lot of guys out here that go through challenging experiences. And then there are some guys that make the choice to stay in those challenging experiences, to keep themselves small. And again, this is not ragging on them or anything like that. Put it this way, you can't be that I've always been this way, this is what I do type of person. Not when you've been hit with something so tragic that it can only force you to move. And if you don't move, you're fighting the resistance of the change. If you fight that resistance of change, then unfortunately, you stay in victim mode. You stay in a mode of saying, why this happened to me? Why couldn't I? Why couldn't she? Listen, we talked about the fact that we miss the loves of our lives, but we can't bring them back. We don't have that ability. So we can constantly keep playing that loop in our head, wondering why, but it's not going to help us. And if we don't break that loop, we end up putting ourselves in a situation where not only is it affecting our emotional mental health, but it's also affecting our children's emotional mental health. They don't want to see daddy upset constantly. They don't want to see daddy sad. They they want to be able to know that they have the ability to move on. And mind you, they look at us as role models. So when we're showing the fact that we're choosing to move on and we're choosing to do things, and I shouldn't even say move on, when we're choosing to address new aspects, because when you lose someone special, it's not about moving on. It's not about that at all. But it is about you understanding that that loss is elevating you to make change. And making change is allowing you to find that person in you that you had no idea. I mean, I wrote a book. I had no idea I had a book in me. You know, I'm gonna figure out a way how to launch a nonprofit. You know, My man is considering jumping out of a plane, you know, and my my man Walter, he's going to be someone successful in the music industry. I mean, it's all about the bleep. Arnold might end up being a chef. The reality is that we're giving ourselves the opportunity. There's no guarantee, but if we don't do it, there's one guarantee. If we don't do it, it's guaranteed not to happen. So take a 50% shot to see what you can do versus having a 100% opportunity of it failing because you chose not to go. The next meetup we're doing on July 8th, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And the theme of that next one, it we're going to be talking about, you know, how we're managing through those special days, the ones that highlight our loss. You know, like our spouse's birthday, or the day they die, or whatever situation. That when we it reminds us of why of them not being here. And what do we do? You know, is that the day we curl up in a ball? One of my friends, she said something interesting. She said, on that day, I just turn myself into a grief burrito, meaning that I wrap myself up in the covers and I do me. And there's nothing wrong with that. On that particular day, listen, you're allowed to feel however you feel on that day. You know, for me, it just happened recently. What I decided to do was simple. I actually turned on a comedy, went and got me some great takeout food, sat down, watched the comedy. And the reason why I did that was because my wife used to love comedies. And for me, I knew that, you know what? I could have a reminder of her. She had this infectious laugh. And as I was looking at some scenes from the movie, I knew she would have totally cracked up. It was a reminder for me, but instead of it being a a down period, a dreadful circumstance, I found a way to honor her within the loss, to remind me of all the great times that we had. The fact that I knew she would have loved watching that movie. You know, I ended up getting that movie with Channing Tatum, the one called Dog. It was mad funny. But the point that I'm making in all of this is you have to have the desire to move forward. If you don't, if you stay in that mode of grief where you're stagnant and you feel you can't move because, you know, if you don't have it, if the person in your life that you've lost is not there with you, then you feel you can't move. And that kind of grief, I mean, that prolonged grief, it literally will harm you mentally. I mean, the the diagnostic and systolic manual, the one that all the therapists and the psychiatrists use, their whole thing, the DSM, and I think it's the number 5 right now. I'm not a I'm not a therapist, so I don't know, but they actually have prolonged grief listed as a mental disorder. If you don't move, you do run the risk of affecting yourself mentally and emotionally. Now, that doesn't mean that if you move, that you won't have those those thoughts, those feelings. No, it doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that you're allowing yourself to explore new aspects of yourself. So now the the grief and the sadness that you're feeling, you're understanding that it's causing points of change. And change is the only constant in life. Everything changes. Even a person that says to themselves, I refuse to change, they don't have to change, but change is going to happen all around them. So, what are you looking to do? What are you looking to explore? What are you looking to find out about yourself? Single fathers, you gotta realize, like, and I'm talking single fathers of all situations. Like I said, in the group I was with, we were all, widowers. But even if, like, you went through a divorce or a breakup or something, look, that that ship has sailed. You can't go back and try to fix it. I mean, you can, but you're now spending your time going in reverse when you really need to be spending your time moving forward, because moving forward allows you to build stronger and better bonds with yourself. And on top of that, it allows you to build a stronger connection with your kids. You see, when you take a not fast forward, when you take a forward approach, it means that you're no longer allowing the things of the past to control you. I mean, you can look in the past as a point of reference, but you're not staying in that past. You're looking to learn different things. You're looking to become a different version of yourself. You're looking to explore options that will allow you to figure out how to be a different version of yourself. Again, you know, earlier I talked about one of my dudes was saying that he's going back out there on the dating scene. Well, you know what? God bless him. I hope he finds somebody that he likes. But also, he has to make sure that he's not putting himself in a situation where he needs to make sure that this person is similar to his wife. He's got to think of something different. Think about some out of the box situations. Think some differently. And it's the whole thing is about understanding concepts of change and coming to the realization that it has to change so that I can move forward in my life. Look, that I just wanted to kind of have that as a quick conversation concerning our meetup group. I want more people to come to the group. So definitely, you know, make the next event. It's July 8th, and it's at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. The theme for this particular one that I'm doing is, how are you managing through all those, what I'm going to call, special periods that remind us of our loss. And this can be an opportunity. If you're not sure, you don't know, somebody else may have some information that you might be able to use. That's what this meetup type thing is about. You know, like I said, today we just bragged on ourselves. We talked about what we're doing, how we're doing it. We gave ourselves credit because, let's keep it real. The world is not going to give you credit. Society is not going to give you credit because, you know, everybody's doing their own thing. Nobody's checking for you, but you can check for yourself. And things like the meetup group, it's an opportunity for other guys that are going through to be able to have a conversation amongst each other. To say, you know what? I understand. I'm going through it. I went through it. Here's what I did. See, when we can learn to help each other, we can be our own support systems for each other. We can be those pillars. We can allow us to be able to empower ourselves. You know, I'm going to say this and wrap it up real quick. We got a choice. Man, we can internalize everything. And if we make that decision to internalize everything, you create what is called a pressure cooker effect. And then you end up doing something silly. You know, or you could say, you know what? Let me get around a group of guys that understands me. You know, the guys that I've known all my life, you know, they may not understand the situation that I'm dealing with. You know, whether you're single due to some kind of divorce and you got a co-parent, or whether you've lost somebody, you know, people that don't have your situation don't understand your situation. So being around a group of guys that do understand it gives you a leg up. Because if you're around a group of people that understand it, they may be able to offer you some key advice based off of their experience. They've become experts. So make the next meetup. It's July 8th, 7:30 p.m. Central. I'll talk to you then.